We've sucked this movie a lot. Do you want to let it finish on our face and get out of here?
I might start the video with that. Tucker and Dale is eat. Should I go full cable guy? Or
You're Alan Tudyk.
oh, I'm Alan Tudyk. Okay.
I'm Tyler Labine, motherfucker. So that makes you Alan Tudyk. So
I'm not gonna lie. Rewatching this movie for this show, I actually kind of did that in my head too. I sometimes do that. Like I put you and I in like who the characters are in whatever movie we're watching, like to get in the headspace of talking about it. So don't think I wasn't Alan Tudyk and you weren't Tyler Labine in my head as well. So creepy.
yeah, I figured.
Yeah. I like that.
Welcome back to the Cult of Films. I'm John, the host, and that right there is Jason O, and we're against evil.
Yeah. That's your Alan Tudyk? All right.
I don't know. Maybe I should.
At least he tried. Tyler Bean's kind of like, I look trashy. I'm a Kirkland brand Jack Black, and I know it. Why am I doing Kyle Kinane? I guess anytime I... like, he wears a hat, he sounds like Kyle Kinane, probably. Jesus. Yeah, anyway, so neither one of us can do a voice.
I need to stumble face first into a beehive to really get into character, but then I'd probably be dead.
Well...
Hey, how about I come over there and I pull those stingers out of your face and I'll help you with whatever you want.
All right, I'd like that, thank you.
Okay.
Listen, you're in for a doozy of a podcast. I'm the co-host, Jason Eald. I'm joined by my co-host, the main host, Mr. Jon Dunning. We are here to talk about Tucker and Dale versus Evil. The first movie, I think, in a long while that promises a good premise and delivers. Do you see The Purge? This is the opposite of The Purge.
I am such a fucking idiot for a lot of reasons.
Hey, there's a difference between education and intellect.
For this one in particular, I fell into the trap. When this movie came out, I fell into the trap. And I'm not even, I mean, I am ashamed to say it now, but I thought this looked like a total piece of shit. I thought this was Larry the Cable Guy does Army of Darkness, and I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking watch that. Little did I know, it's Deliverance meets the Three Stooges, and I was so happy I was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Reddit turned me on to this movie. So, like, if you read through the comments in the Reddit thread and watched the trailer, everybody was sort of bought in. They're so like, okay, I see what this is. Deliverance meets the Three Stooges is an excellent way to put it.
If you haven't seen Tucker and Dale yet, I mean, you definitely should. I mean, it's kind of streaming on everywhere. Hopefully, you'll learn from my mistakes. And if you had a preconceived notion that this was just some kind of straight to DVD dumb movie, then you'd be wrong because it didn't even get distribution when it came out. However, it was a like South by Southwest darling. It just like cleaned up in the circuit. But what is Tucker and Dale versus Evil about, Jason?
They had like actor work, and I remember we looked at each other, we were like, holy shit. We're actors, man. This is what actors do. Look at us acting. We're being actors.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil is framed as it's sort of Lebowskian in the way that, oh man, I hope I'm not the first person to use the word Lebowskian, and I hope it's not as pretentious as it sounded as soon as it was out of my mouth.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
But do you understand the concept of, like, everybody's bought into a premise except for a couple of people? Like, Burn After Reading, I guess, maybe did a little bit better of a job than The Big Lebowski, right? So imagine, like, everybody's involved in a horror movie except these two guys who are just the property owners. The people that in the horror movie are the people that when the wounded teenager knocks on the door of their shack, they come out with a chainsaw. But instead of being those people, there's just these guys that just want to have a relaxing week in their cabin and kind of like get things fixed up. So like a horror movie is happening to them, but in a way that has cast them as unlikely antagonists, you know, versus them being like tormented by like a malevolent killer. Everybody thinks they're the killers, and they spend most of the movie thinking that. And everything that happens kind of farcically paints them as the perpetrators. There's a lot of dramatic irony going on. So this is a way to parody like slasher movies without doing like a not another teen movie type parody of it.
There's homages. It's not a parody. It's a love letter to those things without it being Scream, where it's self-referential. Like Scream knows it's a horror movie and that the audience is in a horror movie, where this one's not. It's just like these guys are just trying to have like a weekend.
Here's to the good life, huh? Oh yeah.
To the good life, man.
The teenagers are stupid. The college kids are fairly dumb, right? However, it sets it up in a way, like, because the beginning, the intro is literally "I spit on your grave," where, you know, she rolls in and it's just those creepy guys at the gas station. And it's just like, okay, I get where this group of kids, it's like fish out of water, and they are getting these notions. He walks up to her holding a scythe. Like, all of these things are fairly well earned, these preconceived notions. And that's the funniest part of it, because no one knows what's going on. No one knows what kind of movie it is. And the biggest, and this is kind of jumping around, but the biggest weakness of this film is when it figures that out, and then there's the reveal that there is a horror movie going on.
I think at the act break, it's sort of like, okay, they figured out that they're in a farce, but then it's like, no, but you are in a horror movie.
Right.
And it's happening to you finally.
Yeah. And that's the worst part about it.
I thought that was the only satisfying way it could have ended.
Okay. What if they would have just kept up the joke through the entire film?
Then like a bunch of more kids would have died until it was one person left. He's like, I'm sorry, all your friends are dead. And she's like, I want to fuck you for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess if you're keeping up the farce, then like everyone dies, or at least she dies also, or something. But there had to be the reveal where it was like, oh, it's the Memorial Day killer's son or whatever. But the whole premise from Eli Craig, and let's talk about Eli Craig real quick, because I was just like, I had no idea who this guy was. Eli Craig didn't even know who he was. He's Sally Field's son.
Oh yeah. It's amazing that it's just in the womb you can just pick up talent.
Jesus.
I wonder if Sally Field's connections helped him at all.
It's not like Sofia Coppola, where she walked into Oscars and she had all the resources to get her to make a movie of that caliber. They couldn't even get distribution for this film. They had to. This was all off word of mouth because of the film festival circuit. That's the only way that anyone even knew that this existed. I mean, Alan Tudyk a little bit. This had to do it the hard way. I give it a little bit more leeway. So you have Eli Craig. You have this was written by Morgan Jurgensen. I know it's a cult film, but is it more for your traditional horror fans? Is it more for your traditional comedy fans?
I'm not a horror fan, though.
Okay.
I think sometimes to properly understand satire, you have to really like the thing being satirized. A, to catch all the references, and B, to be like entrenched enough in that scene to be comfortable watching it take shots. So it's not really necessarily a horror fan. You know, I speak the language. I'm someone who took 2 semesters of French in high school of horror films, right? So if someone says, "Oui, la bibliothèque," I'm like, oh yeah, that's a reference to the doctor from Halloween, or, you know, the original killers was a woman and her son. Yeah, that's Friday the 13th. Like, I get a lot of the references, but I don't have such reverence for the source material. And maybe that helped my enjoyment of the movie, because I didn't get precious about them shitting on horror movie tropes. But at the same time, I'm not such a fan that I'm like, oh, I'm so pumped for getting all these Easter eggs that the normies aren't going to get. You know, I'm such a casual observer of horror films. I've seen all the major ones, but he's like, I can't believe you've seen A House of 1,000 Corpses or whatever. Like, I'm not, you know? So as someone who doesn't love horror, I thought this was very funny, even in my limited capacity for understanding 100% of the references. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff I missed because I just haven't seen everything. I own all the Sleepaway Camp movies on DVD. Don't listen to me say that.
God. No. Yeah. I'm not pretentious.
I'll buy bad stuff, but I'm not going to watch like a halfway decent horror movie from 1983. I'm just not into it. So I don't want to say that if you're not super duper into horror movies, you won't like this, because I'm not, and I did. And I won't say if you are super duper into horror movies, you won't like this, because I think the more you understand of what this is referencing, the more you'll appreciate the care they took into making sure they referenced a lot. So like, this was made for people who don't necessarily care about horror by people who seem to care about horror.
Hey! We got your friend. Why the hell are they running away? Hey!
And I think when you have that mixture, I think it appeals somewhat broadly. So I kind of want to say, if you are familiar with the concept of teenagers being murdered during a movie, you know, if you're aware of some of those tropes, I think you will really find this movie funny, because it's got that kind of like every movie Ben Stiller made in the 90s, that whole farce thing where it's like, oh, wait, I'm not today's main character, but you are. I think this has a pretty broad appeal. It's a little bit gruesome, but I think it's very funny.
I think you're 100% right. I think that's what makes it so memorable and makes it such a beloved cult film, because you don't have to be on one end of the spectrum or the other. You could love just comedy, because it is a deeply funny, stupid movie. It's the Super Troopers of horror. It's the most unoriginal premise done with a masterclass of execution on the absurdity of those things.
I might disagree, because I think if you understand the premise to be that these two guys are unwittingly at the center of this, and it's almost like they are the proxy for the audience, and how you would feel if someone thought you murdered somebody because they had a gruesome accident on your property. And what if that kept happening and no one was going to believe you?
Tell him what?
Oh, tell him what happened.
It's a good idea, Dale. Oh, howdy ho, officer. We've had a doozy of a day. There we were minding our own business, just doing some chores around the house when kids started killing themselves all over my property.
Because that's really where the true comedy, like, it's not necessarily super 100% funny when these college kids get killed in these freak accidents, but it is funny when there's no other possible explanation than that Tucker or Dale killed them.
I don't know. I'm trying to hold it together, just picturing
that's what's funny about
the kid
this.
sliding home into the wood chipper is just the funniest thing I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah, it's exaggerated, over the top horror, but it's so funny because it's like playing yakety sax in the background of Hostel. The scene where he's taking that girl's eyeball out.
Yeah.
It's like, how could you make this hilarious? Oh, her eye came out? That is funny. But like, that's not funny. There's no way to make that funny. But a dude fully ending up in a wood chipper, he's always funny. Rumble in the Bronx, Fargo, wood chippers are hilarious. And it's so over the top that there's no other reaction other than to, like, because it's a gruesome accident, you know, that's so over the top that it's funny, but also, you know, Tucker and Dale are good dudes and they're going to get blamed for this, and that's funny too.
Right. Even though I like that they gave the cop enough agency to be like, okay, let's check this out, because it was so absurd.
Let's see. I
Yeah. And then they do the quick little callback, and you know, he's just like, oh, when they're playing Parcheesi or whatever, he's like, don't hit the beam because that's gonna, you know, tumble. And it's just like they live in Mousetrap. The vacation home is a horror movie cabin of horrors. Like, he's just too unaware to realize that.
Yeah. This might as well be called Tucker and Dale versus Evil Dead.
Exactly. They just stumbled upon a horror movie set, and with the best intentions, and that is the funniest premise.
Alan Tudyk's character trying to stay positive all the time.
Yeah, and they're just their relationship is so sweet. Like, and his relation and Dale's relationship with Allison, so sweet. Like it has heart too. So it gives you all of the spectrum of emotions that a film would, wrapped up in a movie called Tucker and Dale versus Evil with a dude with a chainsaw.
It's a complete movie for sure.
It's just, damn me, like, that's my one regret, is just, like, go back in time and just be like, watch this movie quicker.
Well, I mean, that's what this show's for, right? Because I'm sure you're not the only one. I'm sure so many people are like, oh, okay, let me hear what a stupid piece of shit this is. And we're kind of like, this was like if Cabin in the Woods was funny.
Yeah.
Because this movie kind of ambled along with holding a chainsaw, but wearing ear protection so you can't hear the kid screaming. And you're wearing goggles and you can't really see that you're freaking the kid out. This movie kind of did that sort of a walk. When you're like, I'm just on my way to go clear some brush in my new cabin. And there's just children tripping over themselves, falling in pits, trying to get
running into tree branches.
This movie did that sort of a walk. So the Cabin in the Woods could ride on a motorcycle into a force field. So,
but there's a lot of comparisons between the two films, and rightfully so, because they are parody adjacent to the horror movie genre. But
they both have a cabin.
That's
about it.
One of them's, I think, Cabin in the Woods is more cool. It's a cool premise. This is.
That was before everybody realized that Joss Whedon was a monster.
That's also very true. This movie's just more funny. This is just more light. It's a lighter watch. It's not as like Cabin in the Woods is trying to. It's like more inside baseball.
Yeah,
I love.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I think people entrenched in Hollywood will think this is funny. And Tucker and Dale versus Evil was sort of like, I caught 45 minutes of, Halloween, and
what if the, Curly poked Mo in the eye, but then his eyeball actually exploded?
Yeah. What if Curly went to like hit Larry on the head with an axe and Larry ducked and he hit a teenager instead of Mo? And
there's just so many like little sewn in jokes. Just at the very end, just why not have Alan Tudyk get a female painted nail finger reattached, right? Like,
they found my fingers. Check it out.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I don't remember that one looking that way. Does it look funny to you?
No, not really. That looks natural. It's good.
Every remedy is just pouring beer on themselves. Like he pours beer on himself for the beehive sting. He pours it on there for the finger, and then Dale comes, and that was always like, I felt like the darkest moment, right? Because Dale walks in, spoiler alert, at the very end, and Tucker's in the hospital bed, and he's just like, "How you doing, buddy?" And he's just like, "Oh, I'm on a lot of pain meds, so I'm doing pretty good." And he's like, "Here's a PBR." I'm like, "Oh my god, he just killed Tucker because he
mixed alcohol
and the barbiturates.
Yeah, it's the final accidental death.
If they would have gone all the way with that, I would have been like,
"Did you drink an entire beer?"
Yeah,
oh
with a straw.
God. This movie made me drink a PBR.
Oh no!
For this episode, Tall boy, baby.
I'm not that method.
Has the same label as dog food because it tastes the same.
We're not reviewing Blue Velvet.
I don't think I would drink a PBR for that. I think I would fuck anything that moved if we reviewed.
Fuck that shit! Pabst Blue Ribbon!
My drink tonight is I'll fuck anything that moves.
Bourbon!
Just down here with a CPAP. Just.
Would you like to see a sequel to this? Because it's been kicked around. Hold on.
No.
It's been kicked around.
You asked, would you like to see a sequel to this? And I said no. And you're like, hang on.
Let me put some qualifiers on this.
I'm sorry. Make it worse for me, please. Make me say no harder.
No. And thank God.
Oh, well.
That's half the. I mean, Labine may have.
He's so hot right now. He was the voice of the chicken in Moana. He could basically write his own ticket at this point.
He was also in Breaker High with Ryan Gosling. You know.
You tell me the droid from Rogue One said no to this? The 11th best Star Wars movie? I'm just kidding. Rogue One's my favorite, but
it's my least favorite.
I don't care. I have no reverence for what I actually like. I will just shit on everything on this episode.
Yeah.
Don't care.
I want to ask you 2 questions because not only was I wrong about this film, but I feel like I was too stupid to grasp the actual brilliance of this film. And there's 2 things.
Wait, when you finally saw it, you feel like you underappreciated
it? I mean, I've watched this movie probably 400 times.
Okay.
And I still don't. Okay, so the first part with it's the cameo from Eli Craig as like the reporter or the cameraman or whatever, and his wife plays the other reporter, and then you see them at the end, and it's kind of like a Blair Witch deal at the beginning. Yeah. So when in the timeline of this film is that shot? Because that never made sense to me. Because they come back at the end.
You're supposed to forget that, I think. Even though they bookend the film with it. It's a weird exposition thing that, like, there's so many plot holes that they're just like, this has value as exposition. Yeah. It ties into a scene we cut, but we can leave it because they'll forget.
Okay.
You'll catch it on your 300th viewing, but on your second viewing, you might not even, notice. Like, wait a minute, but what about the thing? A lot of the times that's a result of like a big cut, but there's so much exposition there, you need to leave it, even though it leads to unanswered questions later. So that's a good question about the timeline, but at the same time, it doesn't super duper matter.
Why can't I enjoy things? I think I'm dead inside. I think I'm broken.
You probably like this the first time you saw it, or the second time. First time you saw it, you're like, oh, fuck, I can't believe I didn't watch this sooner. Then the second time, you're like, man, it really was funny when that kid got turned into confetti.
My favorite part is just we're gonna bust in. Wait, are they drinking tea? Like, and he just jumps in with a weed whacker to the face. It's just like the best. It's so madcap.
If Final Destination, this movie is as funny as people pretend Final Destination 100%. Was.
Yes. Yeah. This
is Final Destination made by the theater kids, and Final Destination is Final Destination made by the football team.
Yeah. Because if there's anything in this film, there's an inevitability that that all these fuckers are dying. Because it's still a pure horror film. You have a final girl, so the plot armor is pretty thick on her. There's a point where Tucker is in like dire straits, but he not the music video, actually about to die.
There's an I want my PBR joke in there that I couldn't just pull. I couldn't just leave it there. So I was like, yeah, I'm interrupting you, but I'm going to make a dumb fucking joke for 11 people.
Yeah.
So.
They all clicked thumbs down. I think I heard it all at once. It's weird. They showed this for test audiences. The funniest thing is, for whatever reason, they push it through editing so fast, like post so fast, that they're like, we need music to this to show to test audiences, and they just put the Batman Returns theme. And then they accidentally let that go out the door. So when test audiences got a hold of this was set to Danny Elfman's Batman Returns score, which is, I want to see that cut. Because they had to have, edited that. It's not like they just played it on a loop to the end. You know what I mean? Like, they had to have, whoever edited this had to have placed that at certain times. And I just want to hear da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like when the kid is like running into the log, like that would have been, that just sounds amazing. I actually agree with you. I would not like to see a sequel to this because I feel like it would turn into Super Troopers 2, right? And
exactly.
It's just so self-contained. This is a zoom in on a weekend that was supposed to be so uneventful, and that was why it worked. If there was another weekend, it would be The Hangover, and fuck, like that didn't work. So why would this? This knows exactly what it needed to be. Just enjoy it for what it is. And that's it. Not everything has to have a sequel.
Well, this actually didn't really make enough money for them to really be desperate.
No.
This made $5 million. So, like, they're not like, we need to revitalize the cash cow that is a movie that made $5 million in theaters. And I'm sure $5 billion in DVD sales, right? Like, this is just one of those movies where it came out 10 years ago, so people were still buying DVDs and stuff like that, but you know, they could go to theater. Remember 2010? Remember you went to a theater without a mask and you had to smell other people?
If you haven't picked up what we're putting down as far as if we like this movie or not, I think we really do. It is...
I didn't.
He hated it. No, it is a different take on the horror parody, but not parody. It's its own animal.
I honestly think this was a different take on parody.
Yes. Yeah.
Because for a while, everybody thought Airplane was the way you parodied it. And then the Airplane people were like, we made Scary Movie 3. Like, parody got so bad.
Disaster movie.
With Epic Movie. And this in a way wasn't like the wanky super subtles, like, oh, that's an homage to Kurosawa's High and Low, I get this reference, sort of a thing. But also it wasn't not another horror movie either. So, like, in a way, this kind of was a sort of new way to parody horror. And, like, I think Cabin in the Woods borrowed a lot from this. As much as that was also I liked Cabin in the Woods. It was a very good premise, and I think it executed on it well. That was cool, but, like, also I think Cabin in the Woods had the balls to be Cabin in the Woods because this movie kind of went first.
I agree. It just came out at a time where people didn't know what to do with it, but it's the old adage of if you make something good, people will find it. And that goes for anybody. Yeah. If you're a director, if you're a writer, if you're a content creator or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, if you make something great, then people will find it. And yeah, I kind of hate that I know that Eli Craig is Sally Field's son now. Yeah. Does it tarnish, like, this movie at all? I mean, not really, because...
No, but, like, your narrative, like, he had to suffer in the trenches of doing the circuit of film festivals, right. And then his mom's like, you liked it, you really liked it, now distribute it. I don't know, like...
She just texts someone at Magnet Releasing, which is owned by, like, Paramount.
But it's not... But Eli Craig being Sally Field's son is not the exception. That's the rule for Hollywood. Even being Sally Field's son, he had to go through kind of a lot of bullshit to get this movie made. If he hadn't been Sally Field's son, he would have had to get a real job and never would have been able to make this movie. Right. So that sucks. But, like, it doesn't suck that this guy has connections, because the only people that you see on screen have connections.
Right.
Even with all that, he still managed to make a movie I liked. And then nothing else for some reason?
He's done a couple things, and he has one in the hopper, and this definitely... This revisit of Tucker and Dale made me want to kind of jump into, you know, what he does besides this. He didn't write it, though, so I was just like, he's credited with, like, story by Eli Craig. So he definitely had some... It was like his idea. And the funny thing is like, he was talking with Morgan Jurgensen, and the whole premise of the film actually came from, they saw some scene in a movie where like a nail gun hit a guy in the head and they acted like nothing happened. And they're like, oh, that would be pretty funny. And then the wood chipper scene from Fargo. And then they put those two together. They're like, hey, there's a movie here. What happens if the premise is just like these would-be antagonists are actually, you know, lost in the movie they're in, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes that happens. It's just like, you know, David Lynch says, you never know when idea is gonna, it's like a stream and it just kind of jumps in your head.
It was a nightmare.
It's an idea, right? It doesn't mean that anything he does after this is going to be good. But this specific idea was pretty damn funny, and I'm glad that it exists. So with that said, I can't think of anyone else better to be lost in the woods with. So in our vacation home, where can everyone find us, Jason?
I'm on Twitter at JasonEalt. Check out my pinned tweet at the top of my profile that has links to all the other projects I work on around the internet. Thank you so much for watching our dumb review of this dumb movie.
And you could find me at John the Host. You could also follow us at The Cult of Films. You could also listen to this in podcasting form. iTunes, all the other ones as well. Leave us tiny bits of fingers. We're just trying to store those. This is the second movie in like the last, month where someone's lost some digits. So we're really trying to stockpile those spare fingers.
That should be a marathon. The best cutoff finger. Does Big Lebowski count? That was a
sure. We'll just say digits.
Cut off digits.
Yeah, cut off digits.
There you go.
So we have our 3. Until next time, giver.